I'm still here. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to our conference today. I just want to start and highlight the work that our sector does and the reality of life for all of you. Grants have all but dried up. Trending opportunities that do come along are being swept up by the big nationals or by private sector or public sector disguised as social enterprises. Income is falling, but the demand for the work that we do is getting higher and harder every day. The communities that we support need more and more of the support that we are providing, and we're having to work 10, 50 times harder with ever decreasing resources. However, the reality is that things will be difficult for a very long time. I believe the cuts that we have seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the beginning. However, the fact is that physical regeneration can take place through the public sector or the private sector, but long-term sustainable community regeneration is only possible if we include our sector. Call it civil society, call it big society, call it voluntary sector, community sector, but you cannot get community regeneration without our involvement. My fear is that by the time this austerity measures come to an end, the community sector as we know it will be virtually non-existent. Who will pick up the pieces? Because the big nationals, the private sector would have taken their money, the contracts would have come to an end, and they would have moved away, gone back to their head offices. As a sector, we need to recognize this and look at ways in which we can work better, harder, and more efficiently in order to make sure that we survive. And we've got to stop looking at making organizations survive. We've got to look at how we can make services survive. It's not about protecting organizations, it's about protecting the services that matter to the people that we serve. What can we do to help in that? Well, there are 5 things that I'd like you to highlight. Firstly, reduce your operating costs through efficiencies. Easier said than done, I hear you say. But don't make the simple mistake of cutting services. Look at what you can do with your neighbors, with other organizations that work in your sector. Share premises, share back office functions, use volunteers. Volunteers are always been a key part of our sector. You don't need paid staff to do everything. We need to bring back the volunteer to the heart of the organization. VAST offers many services that you can access, and unashamed plug for the business services that we provide. Accounts, graphic design, print, you name it. We offer it at a fraction of the cost that you would go to a private sector. I know my colleagues from several accounting firms are here, but we can offer bookkeeping, payroll, and all those services at much lower costs. We can help you link in with similar groups to yours so that you can also access those services that you provide, and you can share good practice, you can learn from others. Secondly, keep it local. You all have friends, you have family, you have relatives, and you have businesses or you have organizations who give to charity. Tell them to give locally. £100 given to the RSPCA, I'm not taking anything away from the RSPCA, the work that they do. However, £100 given to the RSPCA is a direct loss to Staffordshire communities. If that £100 is given locally, it could keep a small group afloat for months and makes a huge difference. So by all means give nationally, but divide your giving. Whether you give £50 or £100, it doesn't matter. Make sure 50% of that is given locally. And again, we can help you in that process. Last year, £16 million was donated to charities nationally out of Staffordshire that we're aware of, because we're not aware of every bit of giving. 2.2 million of that was to local charities, and 1.8 million of that 2.2 million went to Donna Louise and Dougie Mack. So 400,000 was shared between 3,000 odd charities. If we can keep 50% of that 16 million, that's £8 million that we will have without any additional burden on anyone locally. So it's no good going with a cap in hand or a begging bowl to the local authorities or the public sector, where we need to try and do some things ourselves in this regard. And we can play quite a big role in helping you do that, not only in finding those donations, but also for those who are giving donations, finding the cause that you can support. Thirdly, get a grip on your finances. We find a lot of groups come to us when the boat has sailed and it's too late to do anything. Our accountancy support services can help you design budgets, can help you manage any grant or any funding that you have, so that you are aware of where you're going before the brick wall hits. And that way you get at least time to prepare and take corrective action before it's far too late. We employ a team of 7 in the accounts department, all qualified in their various qualified accounts personnel. And no single organization can afford that level of staffing, but you can have access to that by working with us. Fourthly, critically analyze your work. Are you doing something because you've always done it? Or are you doing it because the people that you serve need it? And a lot of organizations tend to exist simply because they have existed. You need to do a critical analysis. Do we need this? Why are we doing it? Who is benefiting from it? And can we do it differently? Can we do it with somebody else? And again, our development support can help you with a business analysis that will make a case for the work that you do. And that business case will help you to access funding, but also ensure that you're working smarter and not just harder. You need to diversify. You need to look at new areas, not just the traditional areas that you've worked in, because the funding pot is shrinking and it's going to get smaller. Number 5, market and promote your group effectively. The first budget usually to go is the marketing budget, but if you don't tell people who you are and what you do, you might as well work in a silo, because no one will be aware of what you do. It's not just the service users that you need to be making aware of, it's the people with the purse strings. It's the commissioners that need to be aware of your existence. And that's where our marketing department and VAS can also assist you. So those are the key 5 points that I wanted to make. But despite the doom and gloom, the recession won't be a disaster for everybody. There will be opportunities for growth. And it is critical that we as a sector make the most of volunteers, including trustees. The biggest difference between us, the private sector and the public sector, is the unpaid trustee. And I underline that unpaid trustee because there are rumours in the press and everywhere else about having paid trustees. I'm strongly opposed to that. Our sector exists for social benefits, and the wholesale adoption of private sector values and ethos is simply not appropriate for us.